like to call the town council meeting to order. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul,
Here.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Here.
Councilmember Alfonso,
Here.
Councilmember Starkey,
Here.
Councilmember Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Lemack,
Here.
Mr. Lewis, Mr. Holstein, Mr. Sherwin,
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We have a very important presentation this evening. This is the Master Plan and Facilities Amendment for the Solid Waste Authority. I'd like to call on Phil Holstein, who would introduce our guests.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Philip Holstein, Assistant Town Administrator. Tonight, we're going to be providing an update on the Broward Solid Waste Authority Master Plan and Facilities Amendment. We're going to be primarily focusing on the master plan. So as a reminder, the Solid Waste Authority was formed in 2023, consisting of Broward County and 28 municipalities. The purpose of the Solid Waste Authority is to provide for the long-term disposal of solid waste and recycling, while also working towards meeting the recycling goals that were established by the state several years ago. The interlocal agreement that created the authority includes specific requirements for the authority to continue operating. Under the ILA, 2 key items must occur for the authority to continue. A master plan of operations must be adopted by the governing board, which includes 1 representative from each municipality and the county. The facilities amendment must also be approved. That's an amendment to the interlocal agreement that also must be approved by 80% of the population of the authority membership, along with the county, and that must be adopted as well, both items, no later than August 14, 2026. This deadline is firm. No extensions are available as they've already been exercised. And if the approvals don't meet the threshold by that date, the authority would cease to exist. So tonight we have representatives from the Solid Waste Authority who are going to be making a presentation to provide a high-level overview of the master plan. The representatives are Sam May. Unfortunately, he's in traffic. He'll be here in a few minutes. He's the authority director. We have Daniel Deitch, who's from SCS Engineers. He's going to be doing the master plan presentation. I also want to welcome Sunrise Mayor Mike Ryan. He's the chair of the Authority Executive Board and Governing Board. And I believe that's who we have in attendance at this time. So Mr. Deitch will make the presentation. I'll just do a quick close, and then we'll turn it back over to the council. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Council, the Town Administration. My name is Daniel Deitch. I'm the project manager, as Philip indicated, and I represent SCS Engineers, and we are partnered with a number of other firms in the performance of this work, names you may or may not be familiar with, but it's Arcadis Resource Recycling Services and Mercury. We've been working with the authority for the better part of 2 years in developing this master plan. I'm going to present highlights to you. I'm going to do my best to put it in plain English, and I welcome you to ask questions at any time. So what I'm presenting here really is the bottom line. Where are we at? You can see in the pie chart on the left, that was the recycling rate in Broward County when we started this project 2 years ago. I have bad news to report. It is no longer 39%, it's much closer to 30%. The state has a recycling goal of 75%, and that for us is the North Star that we're aiming towards. There are a number of guiding principles or enduring principles that we have focused on that we believe are the success factors for this work. The first is behavior change. We know, based on the past history of the resource recovery system, that economies of scale provide great leverage and power when negotiating better rates, whether it's for material processing, yard trash, recyclables, or ultimately disposal. We also know that harmonizing services is critically important. The authority working together, we want to make sure that whether you live in the town of Davie or the city of Fort Lauderdale, the services are comparable because it helps us with messaging for clarity. And I think, as you all know, Broward County is a tourist-based economy. You also have a lot of tourists passing through, and we want to make sure that there is consistency not only for the residents and businesses, but also for those visiting the area. We've also been laser focused on resource stewardship. A lot of the material that ends up in a landfill or is combusted has value, and we want to make sure that we're extracting the maximum value from that waste stream. You have to live with the notion of environmental stewardship every day. It ties back most likely to your comprehensive plan, and we want to make sure that we're providing for a safe community to live in. No problem. Okay. That's okay. I'll keep going. And the last is financial stability. What we learned after the resource recovery system dissolved more than 15 years ago, each municipality went on their own. The pricing is all over the map. And I'll invoke what Mayor Ryan likes to share with us. We are subject to the vagaries of the marketplace. And by working together, we are confident that we can achieve the goals and be better stewards. In terms of how do we get there, we've already started education and outreach, and we're going to amplify that if the authority survives. We also know that minimizing the amount of waste that we produce in the first place is the best dollar ever spent. So we have a lot of pathways to focus on that. We've also learned through the performance of our work that 20% of Broward County residents don't have access to curbside recycling, and I understand the situation in Davie, and you're part of that count. And we want to make sure that everybody has access, whether it's curbside recycling or convenience drop-off centers, so people can still avail themselves of resource management. We also know that organics management is a large part of organics are a large part of the waste stream, not just the vegetative debris, but also food waste. And we're going to walk before we run. We're going to focus on yard trash or vegetative debris first, but that will set the stage for dealing with pre and post plate food waste going forward. We also know that construction and demolition debris, there's a lot of construction, a lot of work in Broward County. That is heavy material. And we know that that's going to help us move the needle faster than waiting to focus on that. There's a whole series of policies and regulations that are recommended in the master plan, and I'm not going to go into all of those tonight. We are also focused on innovative technologies. We did a deep dive on sort of the state of solid waste facilities and software. I'm not sure if anybody has had a chance to go to the waste management recycling facility that just opened, but that is probably the best example of how technology is being applied to make the workplace safer and more efficient. It really is a remarkable facility. But our commitment to all communities is that we are not recommending any technologies that are not commercially proven. We cannot compromise ourselves and put too many eggs in a basket that has not really been proven. We've also learned, and I'll touch on this in later slides, there is ample existing infrastructure to stand up services on day one without the need to build capital-intensive facilities, and that's a great benefit. And lastly, because there is a statutory responsibility that Broward County has to dispose or to have disposal capacity for every ton of waste that's generated within Broward County, we know that it's important to secure long-term disposal capacity, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. Just a snapshot, and this goes back to when we started the project, but with a population of about 2 million people, you're generating nearly 5 million tons of garbage every year. A certain amount is recycled, a certain amount is combusted, and a certain amount, or I should say the remainder, is landfilled. And we're going to be hyper-focused on what is recyclable and trying to capture more of that material, so we're diminishing or reducing our reliance on either combustion or landfilling. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Prior to beginning this work, my firm conducted a waste composition study for Broward County. This is simply a breakdown of residential and commercial waste, identifying what is recyclable, what is compostable, but not currently being managed that way, what is potentially divertible, and what currently does not have any value. And this really forms the basis for why we think we can get to 75%. And I also want to show that C&D and bulky waste, a lot of it is not being managed effectively, and it is being disposed of in landfills, taking up valuable landfill capacity. I do want to pause and say that acknowledge that there are 2 landfills in Broward County. One is owned by Broward County. It only accepts this type of material. The second landfill is privately owned. It's owned by Waste Management. And currently, they do accept household garbage, the kind of waste that we all generate, but through a negotiated settlement, they will not be accepting food waste, or what we call putrescible waste, that typically causes odors after this year. So the availability of disposal in Broward County for the kind of waste that we all generate evaporates at the end of this year, with the exception of the capacity at the waste energy facility. So I just want to touch on some issues and opportunities. This is something that we keep top of mind. I mentioned earlier that Broward County has a statutory responsibility to provide disposal capacity for all the waste that's generated. That's in Florida statute. We also see a great opportunity to align all of the authority members together, and that's really the through line of the entire master plan. How much more we can accomplish working together than competing against each other. Currently, there's a fragmented approach to solid waste, and that really is tied to, it's the other side of the coin, to the alignment. We did a deep dive on available public land, and we know that there is limited public land for solid waste facilities. Again, that helped lead us to how do we leverage the existing infrastructure. I mentioned earlier the great cost uncertainty, but we also know there's vertical integration of the solid waste service providers. While it limits competition, we also see it as an opportunity to take advantage of that vertical integration, from collection to processing to disposal. I won't belabor that there's ample solid waste infrastructure, and I'll show you a graphic of that in a few minutes. I showed you the waste composition information, and that helped us focus on those waste stream components that have value. And we've developed recommendations for the programs and facilities to manage that. And I'm going to invoke Mayor Brightcruz from Southwest Ranches, who likes to remind us that it's a journey to get to 75%. I wish we had a magic wand. I wish there was a light switch we could flip and we could get there. But that's just dreaming. But we have a pathway to get there. So I mentioned ample facilities. These are all the solid waste management facilities that are in Broward County, and they have ample capacity to process all of the waste that's generated, with the exception, let me clarify, to process, not to dispose. We have limited capacity for disposal, and that's one of the reasons that we see the great benefit in working together, so that we can leverage all of those tons that will require disposal to get the best possible price for all communities. We started having conversation with the executive committee of the Solid Waste Authority around guiding principles, right, to help us know the contours of the work that we were going to undertake. While these are labeled with numbers, they're not in rank order, with the exception of the first one. We were guided with policy that controlling solid waste management destiny is the #1 priority of the authority. All of the others are critically important. The second one, zero waste focus. You may have heard the term zero waste. It really talks about a circular economy and extracting the value of the waste stream resources at every step in the process. It's not a system in and of itself, but it did guide our thinking. And you can see the others. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we arrive at a solution that is of best value, and I'll touch on that in a few minutes. In terms of key policies that we had to adhere to, we were looking at a 40-year planning horizon, but we think that it's important to go out even beyond that. We also want to look for partnerships. Who can we leverage? Who can we work with? Essentially build the biggest tent possible, whether it's in terms of stakeholders or finding partnerships, whether they're intragovernmental or with the private sector. I mentioned earlier, maximizing the use of existing infrastructure, having a defensible and really simple way to finance this system. When I mentioned that we did a siting study to identify available land, we used the traditional criteria to identify offsets or sites that may not be applicable, recognizing that solid waste services can have an adverse impact on quality of life. We applied a screening criteria that no solid waste facility would be closer than a half mile to a single family home. And you could imagine that criteria alone knocked out a lot of sites, but we felt that that was very, very important. And lastly, we see great opportunities in dealing with the construction and demolition debris and commercial recycling. This is a graphic. Really, what I want you to take away from it is that we looked at every technology that's available, from commercial to emerging. But we only seriously considered those technologies that are commercially proven. Through our work, we identified 5 different scenarios that would put us on the path to 75%. Different facilities under different scenarios, but we're trying to balance the cost and complexity with the practical, what is practical for the authority to move forward with. We were given policy direction, focus on scenario A. You'll probably note that the projected diversion rate is less than 75%, but it's a building block, and it allows us to leverage the existing infrastructure while moving forward with sensible projects. And I should say, our recommended approach is to only develop neighborhood recycle centers or convenience drop-off centers. All of the other processing approaches already exist in the county or outside of the county. These are really the key takeaways of all of this, and you can see it there. Behavior change. As I mentioned, we've started the education and outreach program. Hopefully you have seen the materials that have been produced, and I'll provide you with a website at the end of the presentation. So if you haven't seen them, I encourage you to visit the Solid Waste Authority website, because there is a lot of information that is easy to digest that can be communicated out to the public. So we've been working with the authority to build that education and outreach strategy, and we're very confident in its ability to really impact behavior change. I mentioned earlier the leveraging economies of scale. That, again, is one of the most important elements that is going to come out of everybody working together. The more tons you have, the lower the costs are. Keep coming back to maximizing the use of the existing solid waste management infrastructure. That is a great benefit for all authority members. We're at this time, we're not planning major capital investments in infrastructure, but with a plan that looks out over 40 years, if new facilities are needed, we will be prepared to plan for and implement those projects if needed. At this point, it just doesn't make sense to compete against the private sector that already has the infrastructure, and it's essentially been paid for. I mentioned earlier harmonizing services and then creating consensus and alignment through the authority. This is a pretty simple slide, but a lot of words in terms of municipal responsibility. Collection remains the responsibility of each ILA member. That is outside of the work that we did, although we did share some thoughts with it. You still get to identify today where your material goes. In the future, we want to, if the authority survives and we have flow control, we will then prepare RFPs so that we can go out on the street and get binding prices over a long term to get the best possible prices. We want the authority to serve as the hub of information and engagement, and we will interface with the town and all ILA members to make sure that there is consistency across all members. And really, those are the key takeaways. Moving from where we are today to working together. So let's talk about money. We have proposed a 3-phase approach to manage the system.
Excuse me, do you have a copy of that?
Of this?
This, because I can't see it.
Oh, I tell you what. This
It's
will
in
be,
the backup?
it'll be distributed around. The copy I have isn't much bigger.
Yeah,
I would have to
okay.
give you my
All
glasses
right.
too.
We'll do the best we can.
Okay.
Worst case, Mayor Paul, we can provide a copy of the presentation. We'll send that to you after. I know it doesn't address the immediate
Okay.
concern, but we have the presentation.
Because this
to
is the
provide
key
you.
one, financial plan. That's,
Yeah.
is the most important one.
Yeah, so let me hit the highlights and then we'll take a
Okay.
deeper dive. So the three phases. Phase one is essentially funding the authority for next year in the same manner that it's been funded over the last several years. It uses population as the basis for the contribution, and I'll speak to specific numbers in a moment. So really, it's no change from what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years. Moving into phase two, and phase two can only be activated if the authority survives beyond August, and that uses tonnage as the basis for the funding. It's essentially a tipping fee surcharge. So every ton that is collected and delivered to a facility, there is a surcharge on top of it that goes back to the authority to pay for centralizing all of the services. It takes some of the responsibility off of each ILA member, and it really simplifies it. You're essentially not touching any money differently than you do today. It happens outside of it. And then moving into phase three, still using tonnage as the basis for revenue generation, but it'll be through an assessment, and that'll apply both for residential and for non-residential properties. So this is just another way to look at it. In terms of phase one, it is based on population, and it's comparable to what was done the last few years. As we move into phase two, it really it happens at the receiving facility. So if a truck brings 10 tons of recyclables to the recycling facility, they add on a $2 per ton charge that is remitted back to the Solid Waste Authority. Again, it stays away from any municipal handling. And then phase three, sort of the same approach. The material goes to a receiving facility, and the assessment goes straight to the Solid Waste Authority. So in terms of financial impact, we've just provided the first few years. Again, the reason that there's no value in the cost per ton is that it's based on population. When we move into phase two and start using tonnage, and I should say, part of the reason that we believe that tonnage is the appropriate metric or unit to use is that there's embedded equity in that. Whoever generates the waste is paying for the processing or disposal. And as you can see, the cost per ton is relatively low. It's one of the benefits of working together. So it's $2 per ton. We independently did a waste generation study for properties in Broward County. On average, which my understanding is it may be a little bit higher in Davie, but it's approximately 1.3 tons of waste generated per home. So the actual amount is the $2 times 1.3. So still less than $3, not next year, but the year after. The increases really come from applying an escalation factor. So what did you pay this year for the services provided by the authority? About $130,000, again, based on population. Through the prudent use of your dollars, the contribution will be less next year, in part because we're carrying forward dollars, and the county negotiated a settlement with Waste Management related to Monarch Hill, the waste management landfill, that includes a contribution ranging from between $200,000 and $250,000 that can be used by the authorities. So we're essentially buying down the contribution. So moving into phase two, again, we're looking at tonnage. So we've estimated the residential tons. We've multiplied it times the $2, or in this case, it's a little bit more than $2, but it ends up being $106,000. I'm just going to flip back because last year, or for the current year, you paid $130,000. We think it's going to go down a little bit for next year, and we're anticipating that it's going to come down even more once we move away from population and towards actual tonnage for disposal. So again, it is picked up based on tons generated really tons that are processed or disposed. So there's equity across all waste generators in the county. One of the key features of the facilities amendment, which ties into the interlocal agreement and really the continuation of the authority, is that there are maximum service charges that will be voted on by this body and all other ILA members, depending on a vote on Friday when the master plan and the facilities amendment will both be presented to the governing board. We believe for recyclable materials that the maximum cost will be $110 per ton. For yard trash, solid waste disposal for both Class 1 and Class 3 waste, you're already part of the global agreement with Broward County. Those are the rates that Broward County has negotiated that you've been traveling under. We think we can do better, but for the purposes of setting a maximum rate, we think that this is an appropriate amount. And lastly, we've separated yard trash for disposal, where it just goes to a landfill, no beneficial use, different from yard trash for beneficial use. Again, whether it's mulching or composting, that's going to require a separate agreement, and we know that it is more expensive than just disposing of it, but you're extracting value, and we think that there may be an offset of the tipping fee cost based on the value of the material that can be sold. So where do we go from here? We have a very important series of meetings on Friday. I invite all of you to come. It will be at Government Center West in Plantation in the map room. There will first be an executive committee meeting where they are expected to recommend adoption of the master plan and advancing the facilities amendment to the governing board. The governing board has the responsibility to adopt the master plan, right? So you've designated an appointee. That is one of the responsibilities of each governing board member. It is the facilities amendment that if it is recommended for adoption, it then goes back to each ILA member. So that document will be before this body for a future decision. We expect if both documents are advanced on Friday, both will be sent to every ILA member by Monday, and that starts the clock. So the clock is really within the interlocal agreement. There are 120 days to adopt the facilities amendment. There's a threshold, however, a significant threshold. The facilities amendment has to be adopted by 80% of the members by population. It's not just 80% of the members, it's by population. And that's critically important. That we have a little bit of float in the schedule. The 120 days ends on July 21st, assuming that the documents are distributed on March 23rd. But we have to be at 80% by population or greater, no later than August 14th for the authority to survive. So I promised you at the beginning that there would be resources that you could avail yourself of. I encourage you either through social media, you can see the handles in the middle of the screen, or go to browardswa.org for if you're interested. The master plan in total is about 1,700 pages. It's technically thick. We've done our best to sort of drill down to what's really important. On the website is also a very colorful, less wordy executive summary. So if you read nothing else, I encourage you to take a look at that. It touches on the elements that I shared with you today, everything except for the financial plan. But with that, I thank you for your time. And if you do have any questions, I am available.
I'll start off. Obviously, education and communication is a key factor in recycling. And this has been the biggest problem that we've had in getting people to understand and to, recycle appropriately. We have so many programs, and yet the same issues occur over and over again. For some reason or another, there are some very diligent people who are wonderful, that are in love with our environment, are doing everything that they can, dealing with composting and We have gardening workshops, and these groups have grown. I mean, we get maybe 30 or 40 now people coming to those on Saturday mornings, listening to all these different scenarios and trying to help in understanding how to do this. But that just seems the key. Sometimes it's very frustrating because of the difficulty we have in communicating these ideas to people. But I think the bottom line, and I know you're talking about tonnage and you're talking about all these fees and so forth and so on. Bottom line is, what is this going to cost the individual resident in their garbage fee? And is that going to be something that we're going to be able to support? Is this going to be something that we have to look at very, very carefully? Because that's the bottom line, is we have to protect our residents and make sure that we do the best for them at the best rate possible. So this is going to be a key factor that we're going to have to look at very closely. I know the one thing about Davie, we were all very upset when we did away with the recycling. But the one thing that I felt I could live with was that we went to the waste to energy, that our waste in Davie was not going to the landfill. So, that gave me some form of comfort, not the best. I still would love to see the recycling. But then when you have the ability to direct where the recycling is going and how it's going to be handled, these are all factors that we have to really look at very, very carefully. So, I don't know where that's taking you in terms of making a comment or answering my question, but bottom line again is how are we going to analyze this and determine what the cost is going to be to our residents and whether or not that's something that they're going to be able to handle.
If I may.
Sure.
Mike Ryan.
Welcome. It's nice to see you, Mike.
Nice to see you, Mayor. Mike Ryan, Chair of the Governing Board and the Executive Committee. Let me begin, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Davie's been a leader throughout this process, and we value not only the engagement, and Davie's been engaged from the beginning, and it has been a long journey. It has been engaged all the way through this process as we've begun to try to solve a crisis. And let me lay that out. We have a crisis in Broward County of trash. We generate 5 million tons. And let me put that in perspective. That's 20,000 pounds per minute every hour of every day of each day of the year. That's like throwing away a small car every minute. We do not have the landfill capacity, and we do not have the waste energy capacity. We've inherited this crisis. It was not generated by Davie, wasn't generated by Sunrise, or anybody who's serving now. But 50 years ago, we were doomed to the decisions we make today. 50 years ago, when Palm Beach County and Broward County were in the same posture, having to deal with long-term trash, Palm Beach County went one way, and Broward County went the other. Palm Beach County created a dependent district so that we weren't struggling as cities over that issue. And it built its waste to energy. It owns its landfill. It owns the transfer stations. It owns the truck. And it has a recycling rate greater than 75%. And to your point about education, for a mature system that's achieving societal goals, it spends $4 million a year on education because it's every day you have to educate. We are blessed that we are a tourist destination and people come and go. But education and behavior change is key. In Broward County, we own nothing. We all paid for building the 2 waste-to-energy plants. And in one of the most bizarre agreements, after we all paid for it through our tipping fees, like paying the mortgage on a house, we handed the keys over to the industry. We no longer own that. And the waste-to-energy plant in the north was dismantled and left us where we are today. When we broke up and we went our separate directions, We were left to compete, and the industry knew that. Sometimes we could get some teaser rates. Sometimes we had to make tough decisions about recycling. Sometimes we could feel better that we were at least not sending it to the landfill. But we were doing this every 5 years. And we were subject to the vagaries, and let me be more clear, we're subject to the monopolistic behavior of the industries. We don't control our own destiny. And as you remember, Mayor, and the council members, when we began this process of the Solid Waste Authority, when we started with the Solid Waste Working Group, when we started to meet to say we have to have change, is because we believed we could control our own destiny. We started with a process that was maybe we could build our own recycling plant because we don't need to make money on it. We need to break even while achieving the paramount goals that we set for ourselves. But in the time it's taken us to keep the cities together and to work together to find a solution, industry built state of the art. I say that not as a criticism of industry, but what's happened when government is too slow. And we are destined to where we are right now, despite Herculean efforts of Davie and all the cities. What we've learned is, unlike Palm Beach County, we don't have the opportunity to build our system. But we also know we can't landfill or burn our way out of this. We have to take advantage of the infrastructure that's here. And the best way to do that is just like if you're buying feed. Are you buying 10 pounds or are you buying 2 trailers worth? With economies of scale, with flow control, we can drive the best prices. In addition, we know that it's going to be tough for some cities, but it should not be assumed that at the end of this, that a city that doesn't join isn't going to be subject to the market vagaries. You know, when we send material like yard waste and construction and demolition debris and recycling to either landfill or waste to energy, we're taking away precious capacity from everyone. We need to work together to preserve that capacity and to make sure we're doing the best with it. The good thing is that we know that we can do this and drive economies of scale with flow control, and then work to drive the best pricing. What you see from this model is at the outset, we have already begun the education process. You're spot on, Mayor. The contamination rates are way too high, despite great efforts. And we need to synchronize that across the county. We've stood up already an education subcommittee that has begun that process. There's a lot of social media, a lot of young people as ambassadors. Second, construction and demolition debris. It is the heaviest, most consuming part of what goes to the landfill. And we're one of the counties that can and should have a commitment to construction and demolition debris recycling. Already, a C&D subcommittee has been working. We have a proposed ordinance that's gone out to TAC. We're working with the industry to make sure this works. Commercial recycling. It is the largest component of recycling that we're missing. I know that when I put my stuff at the end of the curb, I know I'm making a difference. But when you look at commercial buildings that are piling into the solid waste that goes to the dump or to waste to energy, we're taking capacity, we're missing the commodities. The brilliance of what's finally happened is that we're breaking down trash into streams that we can divert, reuse, or minimize. And together we have that opportunity. I will say this, that if the Solid Waste Authority does not survive, we will subject our residents to industry, and whatever we think the costs are now, wait until we have no options. Wait until the landfill here is full. Wait until waste to energy can accept no more. We saw what happened in Miami-Dade County. When we have to truck, rail, and send, then what happens is the disposal industry can set the prices wherever we want. I hope that we can work together to improve the plan, that we can work together to mitigate the costs, and that we can get the economies of scale that we need, because I don't want us to repeat the mistakes that we have to live with now from 50 years ago. When we get to the point, first I do want to say this on the plan and the facilities. I thank you for talking about this now, not waiting for it to be approved this week, not waiting for some deadline, beginning that discussion so the residents understand how passionate you are about what this means and what the economics of it are. That's the work we have to do. You have a great staff. John's been fantastic. He attends the TAG. Mr. Lamack knows the economics of this. We have work to do, but we're going to provide you that support so that you have the ability and the courage to be able to continue forward on this process because Davie is a key partner.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's going
Mayor.
to be a very big decision, but we're going to have to make.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else? Sue?
Yeah, maybe somebody could help explain to me the surcharge component for tonnage, because when I look at that, it seems like the more tonnage you have, the more surcharge it's going to be. And that seems like it's not the productive way we want to go. We want to reduce it. So how does that work and then yet still fund the program adequately? We want to reduce it. We don't want to increase the tonnage.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? If we back up in time in the journey of a piece of trash, the way to reduce, reuse, and recycle, right, is to change our behavior when we go to the store. What are we buying? What is it packaged like? Can it be reused, right? Can we reuse the jars? When we do that, we begin to reduce the tonnage, right? Therefore, we begin to reduce the surcharge as a gross number, right, over time. There are those that believe that in a mature system that is working where recycling has reduced contamination rates as low as possible, when we're diverting municipal solid waste that are organics, yard waste, and others that can be composted, that your tonnage should go down. It shouldn't go up, right, if we're doing it right. And as a result, and I would say to the same thing I say when folks say, I don't want any more waste to energy. I say, that's great. Then that means you have to divert every pound of garbage you got. Because right now we don't have the capacity to do anything else. If you truly believe we need to reduce the tonnage, this is what you need to do. Yeah, you may have to drive to a drop-off center in the interim. Yeah, you may need to take you may need to tell your grass guy can't put everything out with bulk. It's got to go to a drop-off center. Yeah, we have to commit to composting. Yeah, we have to commit to construction and demolition because that drives the tonnage down. And as Mayor, as you pointed out, the contamination rate, people don't realize this. It's not just that your stuff doesn't get recycled. It's that they charge us more. They bang us when we get over 30%. And so the residents don't see that directly, right? Because it gets buried in their collection and the cost of it. But we're all into this. And, you know, in Plantation, as I've been told, they have clear bags for recycling. Now, it is suggested that that might be an opportunity to finger wag at your neighbor when you see that they put in banana peels and stuff in there. I don't know if that's really the purpose of it, but the point being, when you realize you're all in it to reduce the tonnage, you have the opportunity potentially to reduce the collection, right? In some cities, they're collecting 3 times a week. If you're reducing the municipal solid waste that's at the end of the driveway, can you get to 2? You've reduced the tonnage and you've reduced your collection costs. That's the idea of working together with this, to build the infrastructure that is as economic and efficient to do exactly what you're suggesting.
My second question, thank you. Yes, it's important to reduce, obviously, or reuse, is also the composting element. I didn't see a lot of effort when I saw your graphic charts and you had them like all broken down into your phase 1, phase 2, and so forth. I didn't see that there was a lot of effort there on composting. Yet I believe personally that that's when you compost, you're putting less on the curb. So that's another way, and we can put it back in our garden. So I think if we put more effort to composting, you might be able to reduce a little bit more. And we've all been, you know, the mayor for many years has been trying to compost out at the farm park for many years. So I think that needs to be something that needs to be done. Not necessarily on manure all the time, but maybe on actual food waste. And I know we've seen presentations on ways that other cities have done and doing a great job at taking restaurant food waste and composting that. And I think they're pink bins that they put all over the place, and they put them at commercial restaurants and things to reduce that. I'd like to see that as an effort. Where are you with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I too share that passion. Let me give you an example. There's a team that plays just to the north of you called the Florida Panthers. Yes, you know well, right? And they practice and they have, right? they have begun composting. This year they'll do 125 tons of recycling from the building, and they have done a program for recycling at the back of the house. Now, it's not because they're just trying to be good stewards. They are. It's because the bean counters had figured out that they can save money on hauling and do the right thing, right? The issue of organics is a key component of what the Solid Waste Authority has to do. It is a challenge to stand it up. But, for instance, on Tuesday next week, Sunrise is discussing a composting pilot project, just like Coral Springs have and others have, and you've done it as well. We're eventually going to have to bring that together. We are blessed that we're not a major metropolis where we have real challenges of how do you collect composting in a 40-story building. We have residents who will do that and do drop-off. It is a key component, and I'll just end with this. We're not going to be able to send organics to the landfill after 27 anyway. So we have an obligation to do it. Now, the question of how we stand up those facilities, the good thing is I mean, I don't want to plug certain parts of the industry, but we have industry right now that can accept composting and has the full capacity to accept. Our job as cities is, while the SWA is working, is to work together to say, how do we consolidate, whether it's drop-off centers or where we're on the border and we're doing this, to be able to do this? Because, to your point, it's not just tonnage, it's that we're not going to have the capacity, and it is the most invasive, if you will, given what organics do to our environment. And we have the best opportunity. So you're 100% right, and that's a key component of what the SWA is doing.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Did you have one?
Yeah, if I may, just clarification. You spoke that the county does not have sufficient capacity. The gentleman said that they have capacity. Is that in the private sector capacity versus the county capacity?
Let me
got it.
differentiate also disposal versus processing.
Okay.
We have the capacity in this county to process, that is, move to transfer stations. We need some additional transfer stations to reduce the costs, right? The hauling costs and otherwise. We have full capacity for recycling right now. At the waste management plant, they can take 275,000 tons a year. We have capacity. What we do not have capacity for is the differential between what we know we can do today in terms of diversion from landfill and waste energy and what is going to go there. So as a result, we are losing disposal capacity.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got it.
thank you.
So now, it was also said that if this doesn't get approved by August of 26, then the Solid Waste Authority is dissolved. So that you're saying prices will skyrocket eventually because it's kind of every man out for himself. But it was also said that the county has the responsibility to provide disposal capacity. What is the county going to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. They don't have the obligation to provide you disposal capacity at a price. They have the obligation to tell you where you can send it, and everybody gets the same deal. So that is the quagmire that we face. Industry controls the disposal capacity. And this is one of the things I hear the county, and we've had our dust-ups with the county over different things, from 911 communications to SROs and all sorts of other things. And I hear from them, we have the statutory responsibility for disposal. But to be clear, they don't actually have the responsibility to take it off our curb. That's on us. And what that price is, that's on the residents and commercial. And what happens when we have no landfill left and no WTE? They tell you this is the place you can go. You pay for the transportation, you'll pay for the surcharges, the tipping fees, wherever that is. What I would say is, you know, we set an aggressive time schedule. It's hard to imagine in government that 3 years is aggressive. There's been a lot of work to analyze this. There's been a lot of scenarios, including could we build our own? Because that was always my hope, is that we would try to correct the infrastructure problems of 50 years ago. But through that analysis, what we've learned is our best hope is flow control, manage every part of that stream, demand the best pricing. And if, over the long term, we're not getting that best pricing, to then say it's time for us to build them. Because when market holds us over the barrel, we have to together be able to say, we're going to build our way out of it. But for right now, our best hope, and this is why we're starting with the recycling solid waste authority's plan, is starting with generating a long-term recycling deal that is the best price. For some cities, it's going to be less than what they're doing now. For cities that aren't, and I know this has been a challenge, there may be an increase. And that will be the subject of what you'll have to discuss. But what also is clear, and I think this will be one of the challenges, is if a city doesn't participate and this moves forward, there may be some short-term gains. But long-term, it's not going to be the best deal anymore. Long-term, the capacity is going to be uptake, and you're going to have challenges of what happens on most favored nations. So this is a really difficult time for us as elected officials to make these decisions that are going to impact people long after we're gone. But that's why we're here. That's why you've had the courage so many times to stand up and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, one more question. There was a fine distinction between phase 2 and phase 3 in the tonnage and how the fee was gonna,
The assessment, you want to talk about
yeah.
that?
Yeah, so it's a different mechanism. In order to develop and implement a non-ad valorem assessment, there has to be a rational nexus. So we are recommending developing the convenience drop-off centers. That's the rational nexus. So we hope that we get there, but there's two different components of cost. One is the surcharge to fund the administration of the authority. That's going to continue regardless. In phase 2, that's when we develop the solicitations for yard trash processing, for recycling processing, and long-term disposal with all of the tons of the authority, all the ILA members. And we believe that we can do better on pricing. So what you're paying today, we are confident for normalizing the dollars that we're going to get a better deal.
You know, one of the issues is when we look at this and we say, okay, well, the surcharge is $2 per ton. If the average house generates 1.2 million pounds, right? 1.2 tons per year, you're talking about $3 or $4. That's number one. Number two, the impact of this long term is what is most difficult to project. I will tell you that what we wanted to do as the executive committee, we wanted to go out on RFPs and get the pricing. We said, let's go out and find out what the industry will charge us. And we started that effort. And it's a big, complicated effort. But what we started to hear back from industry was, time out. We're not going to respond to the RFP because we don't know. Are we dealing with 28 cities? Are we dealing with 15 cities? Until we know the tonnage, how can we compete against ourselves or provide you the best price that's going to keep the system together? And so as a result, we had to pivot. And so the next step that had to happen, this is what SCS has done, and that's that graph about what it's expected to cost from recycling to yard waste to municipal, was to say, do we think, based on the tonnage and looking at all the contracts, that we can do better than what the average price is right now? And the answer is yes, we do believe that. More than just believe. It's part of the facilities amendment. It's part of the plan that it cannot exceed those numbers. And if it does, it's going to require, I think it's 80% of the cities to say that's okay because of some other factor, whether that's change in international economics, we saw that what happened with recycling, or otherwise. But there is a commitment in this process that you'll be able to say, it's not going to exceed this amount. And on a per household basis, I mean, if you don't want to pay $3 or $4, then reduce your tonnage. Do the other things. Drive to the drop-off center. Drive to the park. Be part of that. But at this stage is minimal with a goal of using the economies of scales and the force that we have together, which is that we're stronger together than apart.
Thank you.
One last thing, I'm sorry. So right now, we do not have a number. So right now we have a leap of faith that we have to take, that it will be better. Is there are we like leading the edge here? Are we in the leading edge? Are there any other counties that have a similar program? Are there any other states or agencies across the country that are doing something similar that we can say, well, you can see the result in what they did?
So it's not a leap of faith. because there's a commitment in the facilities amendment not to exceed the cost per ton that you see there, okay? This is based upon understanding what the industry's out there, looking at all the contracts, looking at the tonnage, what we think the pricing. If it doesn't achieve that, let's say on the recycling at 110, it comes back at 130, then the ILA is very clear. That cannot be accepted unless the ILA members at a huge percentage agree to that. There'll have to be a full understanding of why the market can't do that. I don't think that's going to happen in recycling because if you haven't seen the facility, you should. It's state of the art. Like I said, they can handle all of the capacity right here in Broward County. It's about pricing. So that's number one. To your question about other counties, I don't know that any other county has done what we've done, and that's faced the crisis where they don't have a dependent district. There are counties that have taken pieces of this. Lee County is a leader on construction and demolition debris. They have proven that you can divert large volumes from landfilling, and you can do it through an ordinance, and it's the model of what we're moving forward. There are components of yard waste that others have led. But I don't think anybody else has been doomed to the decisions that we have to make here because of mistakes made so long ago. Because I don't think anybody was, frankly, ill-informed enough to make those mistakes.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I was thinking as we're going along, if the industries would change their packaging methods, that's a biggie. I mean, when you look at and you go in your grocery store and every box of cereal, it's got a bag, a vacuum bag. That's fine, but they have to put it in a box. And there's this large company that sends things to your door constantly. Boxes and boxes and boxes. If they could find a way to reduce their packaging, that would be a big thing too.
In fact, when you look at City Furniture or the Panthers, when you look at a closed environment, the commercial aside, they are absolute leaders. They set the rules for what comes in their building.
Right.
And as a result, to your point about packaging, they know everything that comes in is going to go out in one way or another into their circular economy. To see the Panthers do that, they eliminated so much because what they bring now and send to recycling, which they've diverted from their hauling costs, is being put back into other cups, if you will, for aluminum, that is the most valuable, and they recollect that again.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And when you go to Europe and other countries, you see that the packaging, there's a foresight that it's going to have to be processed. We need to change behavior.
Behavior and communication.
Correct.
And education. And this brings us to the next point before we move on. This is so important that we have some sort of a meeting. I don't know if it would be a workshop, because I would want community input on this subject. It's important. The only problem is when we have these things, it's the same 20 people that show up all the time. And the people that really need to hear it don't come. And the question is, how do you motivate these people to come to a meeting, to listen to something that's going to impact them so tremendously? Because everybody's complaining that they're not recycling. But are they going to listen and be educated and come to a meeting and understand what the challenges are that we're going to have to make a decision on their behalf? So let's think about that between now and, when our deadline is up, to have some sort of a gathering.
No, Mayor Paul, that's a great point. That was our plan. This is the first step of many discussions that will occur. There will be a workshop. We have reached out to Coastal, who provides our collection service, because your initial question is, if you brought back recycling, what is the cost?
Right.
I know what that answer would have been 3 years ago when we last discussed it. I don't know what that answer is today. The second question would be if the town wants to do a separate yard waste pickup. Right now, we do a bulk pickup that includes yard waste. Say if we want to do a separate yard waste pickup, that'll be an additional cost too. So at that workshop, we'll be able to provide you that information as you consider the next steps forward. But ideally, as we'll set a workshop date in the future, we'll have individual briefings ahead of time, and we'll make sure it is communicated to the public that we will be having this workshop and we're seeking their input regarding these topics.
Right. And then some magical moment will occur and everybody will show up. From our mouth to God's ears, right? Thank you so much for the insight and the information. We're going to be looking at this very, very carefully. Yes.
I'd also like to recognize Plantation Councilwoman Denise Horland, who is also the president of the Broward League of Cities, and Mary Lou Tai, the executive director for the Broward League of Cities, that are here, who's also been very active in the solid waste effort. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for doing that for me.
If I
Appreciate
could
it.
also, I want to introduce Sam May, who is the new interim executive director, our executive director. He has tremendous experience in the municipalities here, and he's going to be your resource.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I add one thing if you don't mind? Thank you. Thank you. Sam May, interim executive director of the Broward Solid Waste Authority. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and rest of the commission. I've been working with Phil for a while, off and on different things throughout our careers, but now we're working on solid waste together. So I had a conversation with Phil today about the number of residential units that we have in Davie, the residential units that are serviced for solid waste. And the tonnage the typical tonnage is 1.3 tons per residential unit serviced. So that comes out to $2.60 per year. That's what the surcharge will be. You're asking that surcharge and trying to get it. It's $2.60 per year. However, Davie, he said, it has a little bit higher rate than most cities for their solid waste of 1.7 tons per year per residential unit service. So that's $3.40 per year. So as you can see, it's not, and that's for the surcharge for the education and the administration portion of the Solid Waste Authority. So whether it's $2.60 or $3.40, it's a very minimal amount. And what we're looking to do is, you know, as Mayor Ryan explained, you know, through the flow control and through the, you know, through the volume that we're going to be using, our rates that we get should offset that $3.40. But even so, it's still a bargain to get education for $3.40 per resident per
That's
year.
just the
Or not per resident, I'm sorry, per residential unit serviced per year.
Now you're saying that's just the education part of it.
That's the total that's the total surcharge. That's what the surcharge is covering, is administration and education. That is the surcharge that's charged by the Solid Waste Authority.
And what's important in that, right, is what we talked about in the contracting and the flow control, is that includes the RFP process. That includes the process of negotiating. That includes of enforcing these contracts long-term and making sure that we're moving towards the idea of building reserves in the event that we are going to be held over the barrel by market, that we'll be prepared to pivot. So this is part of that plan. And let me say it a different way. If we didn't have, and this is a nod to the industry, if we didn't have infrastructure in this county, this number would be astronomical, right? If we didn't have the processors here, if we didn't have the waste demand, because we'd be talking about capital costs. We'd be talking about the building costs. We'd be talking about operating costs. And so as a result, our leverage is, again, based on the economies of scale, flow control, and maximizing the best value for our residents throughout the county with the smartest programs.
And the numbers are defined. You said, you know, about not knowing what the numbers are going to be. They're defined as far as those surcharges. From 2028 is $2. It goes up to $2.10. $2.10 on 1.7. You're looking at 17 cents more per year per residential customer. I think you have 25,000 residential units serviced in. Is that right? 25,401, if that number sticks to me, for the residential units that are serviced in Davie. So the dollar amount to be part of this is really negligible, you know, and $3 per year or $4 per year. It goes up to, it's going to switch over from going to non-ad valorem assessment in 2031 to the 2033 is our highest is $286. Even if it's $3 at 1.7 tons is, you know, less than $5 per residential customer that will be charged, and it'll be coming out of the as a non-ad valorem assessment at that time also. But it's less than $5 per household that's receiving garbage. So it's still an extremely low amount, and that's in 2033. That's as far out as we have it not projected, but we have it slated for. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your efforts. A lot of going to go into this, a lot of thought. And again, the key here is to try to get as many residents as possible to understand what's going on, what's at stake, and what the costs are going to be, and help us to understand what that decision is.
And Mayor, we're here to support that, right? To provide the marketing, to make sure we get as many people out, to make sure you're able to talk to industry, to make sure you're getting the schools involved, make sure all that. So to the extent that we can help when you schedule a workshop, we want you to be packed.
Great.
We
thank
need you to be packed, right? Because you need to be able to have the cover for the decision you're going to make and that people get behind it. So just let us know and we'll be there to help support.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. We'll take a breath as we lose some of our audience. Is there anybody that needs to pull anything from the consent agenda? No, I don't either. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Mayor.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Go on to public hearing. Number 13, CIP amendment. Mr. Sherwin, would you read the resolution by title, please?
A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving the Second Amendment to the 10-year capital improvements program for the Town of Davie for fiscal years 2026 through 2035, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
If any of the members of the public wish to speak, you can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any questions or discussion from council? You see none? Could I have a motion to approve in a sec?
Motion to approve the capital improvement plan amendment, number 15.
Second it.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Number 14 is a code amendment. It's the first reading. The second reading will be held April 15th. Mr. Sherman, would you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, amending Chapter 12, Article 8, Section 12-260, titled Lighting Standards, 12-261, Street Lighting, 12-262, Night Sky Regulations, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing on the ordinance will be held on April 15th. At this time, though, if anybody wishes to speak for or against this item, you can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any council discussion or questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve in a second?
I'll make a motion to approve number 14 code amendment.
Second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Number 15 is a comprehensive plan amendment. Mr. Sherwin, would you read it by title, please?
An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, amending the town's water supply facilities work plan and the following elements of the town's comprehensive plan: infrastructure element, capital improvement element, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
This is a public hearing. The ordinance will be held, the second hearing will be held on April 15th. If any member of the public wishes to speak on this now, for or against, you can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Anyone on council have any questions or discussion? Seeing none, okay. Could I have a motion to approve and a second for number 15, comprehensive plan amendment?
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve 15 comprehensive plan amendment.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. This closes the public hearing portion of the meeting. We have some items that are proclamations: Professional Landscape Architecture Day, National Interprofessional Healthcare Month. We have some appointments. We have an appointment to the Town of Davie Police Pension Board, trustee appointment. This is a town council appointed position. We have 2 applicants.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Angel De La Rosa.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There's been a motion and a second to appoint Angel De La Rosa. Roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you very much. Congratulations. Here. Planning and Zoning Board term expirations. It appears that everybody that is on the board now is interested in reappointment, so I will start and make a motion to approve Jeff Dixon. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Vice Mayor, would you like to make your,
I'll make a motion to reappoint David Donzella.
Second?
roll call?
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Councilman Alfonso?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Ms. Casey Lee to the board.
Second?
Yay. Roll call?
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Councilmember Starkey?
I'd like to make a reappointment of Mike Crowley.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Councilmember Lewis?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Kendi Armas.
Second.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Motion passes.
okay, then there are 2 council appointments. May I have a motion
I'd like
To
to make an
for
motion
Jesse?
for Jesse Bastos.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Roll call?
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Motion passes.
and also a council representative. Would someone like to make a motion to appoint Michael Evans?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Michael Evans.
I'll
Second.
second that. Roll call.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes,
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you very much. Are there any other board or committee appointments?
I have one, Mayor.
Yeah.
I'd like to appoint to the Agricultural and Environmental Committee, Frida Raj Kumar.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a roll call or just a vote?
No roll call, no.
An individual appointment is just,
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
thought we
as
needed
such,
to-
we don't have to approve that, right? That's her choice.
That's correct,
Oh,
yes.
okay, good. She's a good choice.
Yes. There's no old business, no new business. Just a reminder, the April 1st meeting is canceled. Then we're on mayor and council member comments. District 1, you would like to start? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I have to give credit to Grace Farrar for sharing this with me. Savor Davie Local Dining Establishments. The town is seeking local restaurants to participate in our exciting new Savor Davie initiative to support and promote the town's vibrant local dining establishments. Deadline to participate is April 2nd, 2026 by 5:30 p.m. This program is free for eligible restaurants. To participate or for more information, please contact Glenda Martinez at gmartinez@davie-fl.gov or call 954-797-1196. Thank you, Grace and Glenda. On March 29, 2026, Sunday, the Davie Pal is hosting the Spring Festival from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Potters Park, located at 4300 Southwest 57th Street. This is a free event. Everyone is welcome. For more information, visit the website at daviepal.org. The town of Davie is hosting its annual Hippity Hoppity and Splash and Dash Egg Hunt on April 4th, 2026. The Hippity Hoppity Egg Hunt will take place at the Bamford Sports Fields from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Splash and Dash will take place at the Pine Island Aquatic Center from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Both events for ages up to 11 years old. For more information, please contact the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Art Department at 954-797-1181 or email specialevents@davie-fl.gov. And wishing everyone a safe and happy Easter on April 5th. Thank you, Mayor.
Very quickly for me, our Veterans Breakfast yesterday was a tremendous success. It was the largest crowd we've had. We served 126 people. We had 2 World War II veterans, Harold, 104, and Smitty, 102. And it was absolutely a marvelous morning. Just like to mention that March 27th, 10 a.m. at Harvest Cafe on Sterling Road will be the next Mayor's Breakfast. And then the last Garden Matters Day for the season had one of the largest crowds we've had in a while. And it was really a wonderful turnout. And again, I have to thank Jesse Bestos for spearheading that and working so diligently on programming it. And they've done a lot on composting. And this is one of the things that they've been working on with that. So we're doing a little bit here and a little bit there and trying to make an impact. So looking forward to Hippity Hoppity. And I'll move on to Councilmember Alfonso.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, I want to thank the council for supporting the National Interprofessional Healthcare Month proclamation. At Nova Southeastern University, we train more healthcare professionals than any other university in the state of Florida. So we're pretty excited about that. And my wife is a nurse, so definitely want to recognize those professionals who take care of our health. In addition to that, if you follow college athletics at all, Marlon was out at our Saturday game. We won again on Sunday and Tuesday. So the Nova Southeastern University men's basketball team is now off to the Final Four in
Wow.
Evansville, Indiana, and we'll see how that goes out. More importantly, the women's swim team, the Lady Sharks, completed the 4th consecutive national championship for swimming. So in NCAA, that's pretty strong. They set a couple of national records and individual records as well. So it's pretty impressive. If you want to come out and watch pretty good sports, I encourage you to come out to university. So that's right here in the town of Davie. Thank you.
Susan?
Well, as they say in Tallahassee, Sindai. And that basically means that the legislative session is over last Friday. So I can tell you I had a good night's sleep for the rest of the weekend. We've been tracking and following so many bills out of the 1,800 bills that were filed. It seemed like it was a never-ending battle between the House and the Senate. Those boys just didn't get along. So the good news for us is a lot of the bills that were being controversial didn't get passed. So we somewhat have a reprieve, although they did threaten a special session, not just on redistricting, and they have to come back again. They're only single duty, which was most important, is the budget, and they didn't do that. So they have to go back and do that. But they may also come back and look at some of the other issues that had been fought back and forth. So the big issue that, as many of us have been following, is the big impacts it'll have from property taxes. We know that a lot of the public believed that they would be getting a good break from it until they finally figured out that, you know, when you push down on as some people used to say, you push down on one side of the balloon, the other side pops up. And we know that that means that additional expenses will go up in any other way for services. And our budgets would definitely be a big hit. So we also had done several polls. I think I mentioned it once before about the polling that's been done. And that they, even if they did put it on, excuse me, as a ballot question, they really don't believe that they have the 60% needed to pass it. So they're regrouping, they're trying to find out exactly what they need to do. You may see a smaller version scaled down on what it might be, which could be maybe just an additional 100,000 on homesteaded properties only. And then again, exempting, of course, schools. So those things are going to be probably considered if they do have that special session. But I tell you, it just was frustrating. And then I follow a lot of the stuff that's going on in Washington, and I think these kids don't play well in the sandbox, not in state, not in Washington, and we see constantly they can't even do what constitutionally they're supposed to do, which is pass the budget. So I beg my colleagues, please don't let it trickle down to us as we go through our workshops. Let's try to make sure we get our budgets passed appropriately. I had the honor of going to the ROTC, but I'm going to save the comments to Marlon because he was our guest speaker at the ROTC in Weston. So I'm going to let him speak on that, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. I also went to the Broward workshop, which was at the convention center, and it also discussed, I know that Dr. Alfonso went there, but we took away quite a bit from the knowledge and the speakers that were there and that were present. I think that's something I'm continuing to follow, and I think it's important that we look at a lot of the ways that we can use that data here locally on what we're doing here in Davie. Also, a save the date for many of you. The town, Broward League of Cities, is also doing a workshop on, and it's called, it's a crazy thing. I don't know, it doesn't, Dignity Index Leadership Summit is what they're having. And I'll make sure that everybody gets it. I know that Dr. Alfonso, I heard, has also plan on attending, as well as myself. The purpose of this, the executive board, we decided that we needed to look at the elected officials around Broward County. Many of them are new with term limits, and we wanted to be able to educate them on what leadership is all about and how we can get along with each other and constructively pass policies that benefit our residents. And I think Davie does a good job, and that's a great tribute to what our town staff helps, I think, in that way. But I think that this workshop's going to be very beneficial. And I'll be happy to bring home, as well as I'm sure Dr. Alfonso, some pearls of knowledge for all of you. And lastly, I look forward to going to Hippity Hop and doing a whole bunch of fun things for this spring and Easter and Passover. And I look forward to all of those wonderful times as we finish spring break this week. I can't wait for my kids to get back in school, the grandchildren. I'm sorry to say. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Long story. They're on vacation, and I miss them dearly. So when they come back and get in school, I get to have them all over again. So that's why I want them back in school.
Thank you. Marlon?
Thank you, Mayor. We start off by saying a quick reminder, April 18th, the rodeo is coming again. So if you want those tickets, get them now. And our small business development center is hosting a panel discussion on March 26th at 2 p.m. And this discussion will center around using data or statistics to make decisions for your business. And there's several experts who will take part in that discussion. As Councilmember Alfonso mentioned, I did get to go to that basketball game, and I want to say it was excellent. It was entertaining, and the facilities are sensational. There's not a bad seat in that house, and the team was incredible. I think they won like 45 points or something like that. They were incredible. It was an excellent game, and I just enjoyed the whole setting there. And I want to encourage everyone. It's right here off University Drive close. If you like sports, what Nova's doing there is excellent. And as Councilmember Starkey had mentioned, I got to go to that JROTC Western High annual military ball. And a lot is said about this next generation, a lot of jokes, a lot of things about Gen Z. But I got to tell you, you see these kids that we shook hands with every one, and we shook over 354 hands, 354 individuals, a lot of shaking. But every one of those kids that I got to meet there is respectful, just well-mannered, articulate, enthusiastic, the salt of the earth. If these kids that I saw there that night represent the next generation, this country's in good shape. They were just marvelous young men and women, and my hat goes off to Colonel Johnson, who was in charge of it. And they had a wonderful speaker there, a retired Special Forces Colonel Hall, and just inspiring and a wonderful evening. But I got to tell you, I left here just so impressed by those young men and young ladies. Super, super job. And that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I forgot
Please.
one thing. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Lemack?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to defer to Councilmember Alfonso or Councilmember Starkey. If they wanted to mention, I had the pleasure of joining them at NSU for President Harry Moon's vision. I don't know did you just want to go and say something? Because I was really moved by it, and it was very impressive. So I just wanted to say that I know myself and Phil and Leona were there as well, and it was extremely well done and very impressive to hear not only NSU's past and present, but the plans for the future, extending well beyond our science and technology and research, but also on the environment. And I just wanted to say that I was really impressed, and just if anybody else wanted to say anything, it's fine, but I just want to put that on the record. So thank
That's
you.
what I wanted to do, is thank staff for attending that wonderful event. And it was really worthwhile.
Mr. Sherwin?
Yes, I do have a comment. Our office lost our paralegal Amanda Cadigan to the town clerk's office, and it's to the benefit of the town clerk's office. She was a terrific asset to our office and to me personally, and we're glad she's staying with the town, and I know she'll do an amazing job in the town clerk's office. I wanted to thank her for the work she did in our office.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Congratulations. If there are no objections, we're adjourned.